Hello, it is Diane with Diane's BlueHeartsAndButterflies.com, and I am showing how to do another diagonal technique card that I found on the internet. This was shared from Marsha LaFroth, and she was sharing one that she had adapted from, I think it's Jamie Barbaxi. I cannot pronounce the last name. I am apologizing right now. All of the dimensions are over on my blog at dianesblueheartsandbutterflies.com, and I'll also have some of those cutting dimensions written down. I am using several products that are retired, or this one of them for the label. I am using the Unbounded Love, one of the labels out of that die set. I am using Free as a Bird, which is a bird set that I had that's retired, and Best Birds that I had. I liked some of the flowers and other things in that. I was trying to use up some of the products things that I had. I did use linen thread, which is a current product, and then some pearls. Of course, I've been Stampin' Up for so long, and I have so many that I was using up some of my old ones. These pearls are white, and I wanted them to match the Pool Party color, so I got out my dark Pool Party marker, the blends marker, and used the painting end, and I just colored these with that. These are the alcohol based markers, and so they won't rub off. If you use the Stampin' Right markers, they do tend to wipe off the color, but these tend to stay. So that is the product that I was using. And I did use, I think it was Bird Ballad, some old paper that I had. There is all kinds of papers and stamps and things that you could use. You don't have to use these products. I mainly wanted to focus on the techniques and how to do them. So don't get hung up on not having these things. Also, if you don't have a demonstrator, I would love for you to shop with me to find products that you do like. I'll just kind of go over these quickly, but again, the dimensions are over on my blog post, and I will link the video to my blog post. So the Mossy Meadow card base that I used is 5.5 by 8.5, scored in landscape at 4 1/4. I have the Floral Designer Series paper is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. There was a Pool Party strip, and it was actually a rectangle, and it's 1 5/8 by 3 5/8, and then I just cut that in a diagonal. You're going to want to make sure that the diagonal matches the way that it needs to be. So I think on this one, when it folds down, you're going to want to go from the top right to the bottom left to cut that, and you can make 2 cards from that one. Then there are 2 of the basic white. One is for the inside, one's for the front, and they are both 4 inches by 5 1/4. I also cut a scrap, like I said, a scrap piece of white. I cut that label from the Unbounded Love dies, and then I stamped on that. And then I cut a piece of the DSP just to kind of go on the inside, and this is 3/4 of an inch by 4, so that it will go on the bottom of this piece on the inside. And then I had just cut out on one of the Designer Series paper, I just cut out some birds, and you'll want to fussy cut those to be what you want. And then I tied a double bow out of the linen thread. So that's what we needed for that. And so now we'll kind of go over how to do this. So on this card front, you're going to want to measure down 2 inches from the top right corner of the card base in landscape, and you'll just make a small mark with the pencil. You'll put that in your trimmer. Let me bring it over just so I can show. You'll line that mark up from 2 inches, it's down from that side, 2 inches, and then you're going to line that mark up, and then where the top of the score line is, make sure that your cutting blade is out of the way, because you're going to want to use the scoring blade only, and you're going to want to score that line. And then you'll use your bone folder to make that really firm kind of a fold. Then the way Marcia suggested doing it, she said to lay this white piece, the one for the front, without the corner fold down, and you're going to leave 1/16 of an inch, so very small border at the top, and you're going to want to just put a pencil mark on the right side just above the right score line, and then you're going to cut from this mark up to the top. Oh wait, no, it said lay it up here so that it's equal on this side, and then just a 1/16 of an inch at the top. So the other pencil mark is just slightly inside of where that score line is on this side. So there and there. And then you're going to cut that piece off. And let me go ahead and do that part just so you can follow along. So you'll lay those 2 marks. I drew for my class, I drew so that they could see where to cut. But you'll cut between those 2 marks. If there's any pencil mark left over, you can always use an eraser to get that off. Now this piece that you cut off, you are going to use for when you fold this down. You're going to use that here as a layer, and then you'll also use that pool party piece that you had. You made 2 out of that one, and you'll create a layer like that there. So what she said is also then take this piece that you cut, and you're going to lay it where it's 1/8 of an inch. Okay. Take your white piece with 1/8 of an inch edge around the bottom and sides, and you're going to want to put another pencil mark if you need to. Mine just happens to line up fine, so that when it folds over, it's covering that, but it's also not over that line. So mine worked out just fine, so you may not need to do that, but she had suggested putting it up there, and if it needed to be cut off, make the mark so that it would cut it back there. Now, the Floral Designer Series paper, you're going to take and line it up so that it has that little bit of a border, and then you're going to want to make sure that you make your mark here and up here so that it is either at least the same height or just less than the height of the white piece, because this will be hidden behind here. But you'll then line this part where the marks are up in your trimmer and cut that piece off. And again, if there's pencil marks that you want to get rid of, then use your eraser, get rid of those. And then we can go ahead and layer our pieces together. And I'm using the Seal Plus. You can use whatever adhesive you like. And then I'm just creating the little border. Oh, I've got a little bit of tape hanging over. One good thing about that Seal Plus is if you see it hanging over, you can just fold it over the edge. But I'm gonna line it up so that my bottom and side borders are about even. I'm not going to care too much about that top one because, like I said, it's going to be hidden underneath your folded over corner, your corner fold, which is where the technique comes from. I just saw a bunch of card ideas that I've been wanting to do, and they all dealt with diagonals, so that's kind of what I went with, was a special techniques class for diagonal folds or diagonal cards. And so there's going to be a total of 5 cards that I did. Now make sure when you fold this piece over that these layers are going in the same direction. You don't want them to be opposite and do them wrong. So you want to kind of dry fit it and make sure that you have it correct. And I do. So I'm going to turn that over because I know which direction it needs to be. And I'll bring that tape out and again fold that over so that it's not coming out. And then you'll put this where there's kind of a same border. And layer that, and then you'll do this one on here. And then once you have all those together, if you want, you can either use glue dots or adhesive runner, white glue, or even Stampin' Dimensionals underneath this flap to hold it down. I'm just having a very small green border there. And I will grab some dimensionals and put a few of those to help hold that down. I think I'm going to do another one up here. Take those backings off. Fold that over. Oops, stuck to me. And then I hadn't cut my birds out. I think I'm going to use these. I just kind of cut around them to get them all apart, but I hadn't actually cut the image out, so I'm going to do that. It's always best when you're fussy cutting that you move the image and just keep your scissors steady, and you can get as close or as far away as you'd like for your fussy cutting. And off to the side, and you can use any kind of adhesive again to put it on here. I think this time I'm just going to stick them on with some adhesive behind here. Oh, I just see, because I want to make sure that it's not going to stick out above the top of the card, and you want to make sure that your adhesive that you put on there doesn't go back behind. There's that. Don't forget the inside, and you can stamp a message if you would like, or leave it blank to write on later, however you want to do that. And add that to the inside, and then I'm just going to add this Designer Series paper as a little added. You can just use other stamps and images if you want. I am also, I will cut this one out and I may stick it on here. I don't know. It's just an extra one. And then don't forget your double bow. I used a glue dot, but you want to make sure that you kind of roll that up because you don't want the glue sticking out past the knot, because it'll stick to your envelope and everything else. And you just kind of put that where you want it. And then I think I'm going to use dimensionals on my sentiment as well to pop that up. And these could be for any occasion or anything. This one, I thought this saying, "The world needs more of you," was just perfect for what I needed. And I love that flower out of one of those old things. And then don't forget to stamp an image on your envelope, and then also add your little colored pearls wherever you want them. I think I'm going to put one here and one up here. I think I'm going to put that one right there. And then you have the corner fold card. I hope that you enjoyed this, and please check out my blog at dianesblueheartsandbutterflies.com. The inks that I used was Early Espresso and Calypso Coral, because it went with this paper. But like I said, you can use anything that you want, any inks, papers, stamps, to just use this technique. So I appreciate you taking the time to watch my video, and please check out my blog for more information and other ideas. Thank you.